Amanda here, and today we're talking about a new release from Klarity Kosmetics. This is the So MERMAIZING palette. Klarity is an indie brand, and I've talked about a couple of their shadows here and there, but I feel like this palette is really what is going to put this brand on the map. People went crazy for this, myself included. I ordered this from the very first pre-sale. I mean, it's very sparkly and it's mermaids, and I can't think of a reason not to love that. I just looked at their site and this one is currently sold out, but I do think they have plans to continue to restock this as long as there's demand for it. So hopefully it will be back in stock and available for sale, or at least for pre-sale soon. But I did want to go ahead and give you the scoop on this palette. First of all, because I wanted to play with sparkly things, and I just wanted to give you some swatches, my thoughts, a tutorial before it comes back in stock, just in case you're on the fence or you're not sure if you want this one. I'm going to give you all the info. This palette is priced at $48 US. As you can see, it is very large. It's bigger than my head. So while that is pretty pricey for one palette, you are getting a lot in here. The Klarity Kosmetics does use these extra large eyeshadow pans, so they're the 36mm pans. There's quite a lot of product in here. This palette comes in a sleeve instead of an outer box, so the palette and the sleeve have the exact same front cover, but at least for my palette, the back is completely blank. However, the sleeve does have some more information, ingredients. According to these little symbols down here, it has a 12-month shelf life. It's cruelty-free and vegan. So I know that's exciting for my cruelty-free and vegan friends. And I do want to point out that both the sleeve and the palette call this a pressed pigment palette, which means I personally would recommend patch testing all of these shades on your arm before you put them on your eyeballs. I have worn them all on my eyeballs and I'm fine, but you may be allergic to things or sensitive to things that I'm not. So, you know, it doesn't hurt anything to patch test, so I recommend doing that. This is a heavy duty cardboard palette and it does have a magnetic closure. We've got some super cute, sparkly, pastel mermaid designs here. The outer packaging matches the shades on the inside, which I always love. This is really cute, it's pretty, it's fun, it's whimsical. Then when we open up inside, there is a mirror in this palette. We have 10 shades, 2 rows of 5. All the shade names are printed inside next to the pans. And we have an even split, 5 very, very shimmery duochrome shades, and then 5 very pastel matte shades. Now I want to show you swatches of this So MERMAIZING palette. I'm going to be doing both finger and brush swatches. All the swatches are done on the inside of my arm with no primer down first, just the shadows straight onto my skin. The finger swatches will be pictured on top, and then each corresponding brush swatch will be directly below. As always, for my brush swatches, I'll use my e.l.f. flat eyeshadow brush, and I'll clean the brush off in between each shade using my Veramona color switch. That way there's no shadow transfer between swatches. So let's take a look at those swatches now. Just a couple things I wanted to note for these swatches. First of all, these did not take any building up at all. I think they swatched easily and beautifully with both the finger and brush. You will notice that there's a color difference with the peach when applied with the finger versus the brush, but other than that, very, very consistent performance-wise. Now that you've seen this palette swatched, I want to show you a tutorial using the So MERMAIZING palette to get this really, really pretty green and pink eye look that I'm wearing today. This eye look has been distracting me all day long, so I'm going to show you my tutorial for this look and then I'll wrap up all my thoughts at the end. I'm starting off just like I always do, priming my lids with my favorite eye base. It's the MAC Paint Pot in the shade Painterly, and I am going to dust just a little bit of setting powder on top of this eye base because, as you saw from the swatches, these shades are pretty intensely pigmented, and using a setting powder on top of the base helps me to get a quicker and easier blend. And you'll see during the application here that I do not have trouble getting a really nice opacity and a nice bright color payoff. Even without my base being super sticky, you can see these colors are really coming through, and they're gonna stay consistently bright and bold throughout this look. And I actually did a wear test on the same day that I was doing this eyeshadow look. So if you're curious how this shadow wears throughout the day, I have a 6-hour wear test for the base product I was wearing on my face the same day that I wore this look. So you can see this shadow stays in place. It stays just as bright. Even the shimmers stayed in place and didn't get all over my cheeks. I was so impressed with the longevity of these pastel shades and these really, really sparkly shimmers. I was expecting tons of fallout, tons of fading, and every single shade has just been so impressive. And that's from somebody who's not a big pastel lover. Another reason why we don't have any comparisons in this video. I just don't have a lot of pastel palettes. I don't even have a lot of pastel singles. And the ones that I do have are nowhere near the quality and the color payoff that I've been getting from this So MERMAIZING palette. So I didn't really have anything worth comparing shade-wise anyway, but even just quality-wise, there's nothing that can compare in my collection. Honestly, I am on purpose wearing blues and greens, pastel blues and greens, and you'll see when it comes to the finished look, I think it looks great, but I think you can tell that I feel like it looks great. And there's something that's just a whole nother level when you sort of step out of your comfort zone with a look and then you end up really loving it. It's just a huge confidence boost, and it's just made me fall in love with this palette. I am in love with this eye look. I cannot stop staring at my own eyelids. So yeah, spoiler alert for the rest of the video, I freaking love this palette so much. My very first impression when I opened this palette was I was a little bit taken aback, maybe a little bit disappointed, because the picture that I saw on the Klarity Kosmetics Instagram that made me order this palette didn't really look like the palette that I received. Basically, once I saw it in person, I didn't really like it as much as the product shot I had seen in the picture. And by all accounts, I shouldn't really like this palette. It's pale, it's pastel, there is hardly a neutral to be seen. I mean, maybe you could call this peach a neutral, but overall, this is an overwhelmingly very colorful, very pastel palette. And that's not really my personal style. That's not really what I gravitate to. I like really rich jewel tones. I like a lot of purple and orange and mustard and, you know, warm neutrals. And aside from the fact that it has a bunch of really, really sparkly, shimmery duochrome shades, which I love, this isn't a palette that I should like at all. And it also doesn't have any purple, which is the only thing I would change about this palette, because purple is my favorite eyeshadow color to wear. But yet I still really like this palette. The shimmers alone are enough of a reason for me to like this palette. They are stunning. They're sparkly, they're bright, they're shifty, they're interesting, they look really great on the eye, they apply really easily, they wear for a long time. All the things that I want a shimmery eyeshadow to be, these are. Now, typically where they would lose me would be the mattes, because there's not a lot of depth here. There's not a lot of variety. Like tone-wise, there's not a lot of variety. There's not light, mediums, and deep. Just tone-wise, these are pretty one note. They're very pastel, and those type of mattes aren't really my favorite. They tend to be a little bit more difficult to work with. Sometimes they look really chalky or patchy, and these are a pleasant surprise. I think both in swatch and in application on my eye, I've had a great time using these. They show up well, they blend well. The only one, surprisingly, that I don't really like is this peach shade. I struggle to get this one to show up on me. Maybe it's just because it's too close to my skin tone. In a perfect world, I would switch this peach out for a purple, but I'm totally biased because I love purple eyeshadow. Overall, I shouldn't like this palette, but I do like it. It's been so much fun. It's almost like freeing to play with it because I know I'm only gonna do a really colorful, really shimmery look, and I'm not trying to tone it down. I'm not trying to do anything other than just play with color, combine some different colors that I wouldn't normally combine, and I've had a really good time with this palette. Quality wise, it's been lovely. It's the perfect balance between being pigmented enough to show up but not being so overly pigmented that it's hard to work with. I have seen a few people sharing on social media that their So MERMAIZING palettes arrived with cracked or shattered shadows, which kind of surprises me because I feel like my Berry Royal palette, also from Klarity, was way softer and more prone to breaking from use than this one. I only have those two palettes to compare, but I was surprised to see that because I feel like this one wasn't quite as fragile as my Berry Royal palette. But I did just want to mention that in my review as something to take into account if you're considering ordering this. Some people have had theirs show up cracked or broken. Mine was in perfect condition. It was bubble wrapped and it arrived very safely, but you know, it's just something to consider. I like to try to look at all sides of a product for a review when I can, so there's that. Now's the time when I want to hear what you think about this palette. Are you interested? Did you order it? Are you waiting for it to come back in stock? I always love to hear what you think about things too, so make sure you leave all your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye! Ooh, excuse me. I mean, so pretty. That was gonna be words, I'm sure of it. Wow. 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 It is very mermaizing, as you're about to see. I wish that I didn't make that joke. I said it and then I immediately wished I didn't say it. Anybody else ever been there? Mom jokes, guys, mom jokes. What was I saying? Wow. Really crushing it today. Doing great. I don't know. I have no idea. That's not what I meant to say. Hold on. Let me rephrase that. I lost the word. It was in my head and it fell out. Okay. Huh? I don't even know who I am. Pastel eyeshadow, pastel clothing. This is my I Love Your Face shirt that I got foundation all over and I haven't washed it because of who I am as a person. It's fine. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope that you get as distracted by your own eyeshadow today as I have been by mine because it's really fun. And anyway, you're cool. Thanks for hanging out. I'm glad you're here. I'll see you in the next one. Okay, I love your face so much. Okay, I love your face. Bye.